Yes, my friends, everyone is watching the Detroit Lions. I am very confident that this season will be one of the most exciting in the NFL, and I believe with all my heart that the Lions will make it to the Super Bowl. Make sure you hit the like button if you believe it too, and if you are a passionate fan, write this, one pride. I am here to bring you some breaking news that is sure to stir up some mixed emotions among the pride. As the safety market finally starts to move, one of our own, former Detroit Lions captain Tracy Walker, is reportedly on the verge of finding a new home with the San Francisco 49ers. According to Matt Barrows of The Athletic, Walker is expected to sign with the Niners, and there are many layers to this move, so let's get right to it. For those of you who've been following Walker's journey, you know he was the Lions' third-round pick back in 2018. Over the past 6 seasons, Walker has been a mainstay in our secondary, starting 43 games and earning the respect of both his teammates and the fan base. He was more than just a player, he was a leader, someone the younger guys could look up to. In fact, when he signed that 3-year deal in 2022, the expectation was that he'd be one of the core pieces to help guide our defense into a new era. And who could forget that emotional moment when Coach Dan Campbell laid it all out for Walker? In a behind-the-scenes video, Campbell told him, "You were one of the guys we were talking about. When we get this thing right, all the shit you had to go through, all the stuff you had to go through, it's going to make it that much sweeter. So now this is yours. So what do you want to do with it? You're one of these guys. You're one of the core." But as we all know, football can be a brutal game. Just 3 games into that season, Walker's journey took a heartbreaking turn when he tore his Achilles. It was a tough blow, not just for him but for all of us who were rooting for him to finally get his due. When he returned in 2023, things just weren't the same. He lost his starting job, first to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who he picked up in free agency, and later to Afita Melifonwu. It was a hard pill to swallow, seeing a guy who had given so much to this team lose his spot on the field. And then came the offseason. In February, the Lions made the difficult decision to cut Walker, freeing up about $5.5 million in cap space. It was a move that made sense from a financial standpoint, but it was still tough to see him go. Now, it looks like he's heading to the 49ers, a team that's been at the top of the NFC and is looking to defend their crown. It's a fresh start for Walker, and maybe it's just what he needs to revive his career. Walker's time with the Lions officially comes to an end with some solid stats: 79 games, 398 tackles, 23 passes defended, and 5 interceptions, all of which, interestingly, came in the 2021 season. He leaves behind a legacy of resilience and leadership, even if it didn't end the way any of us hoped. So what do you all think about this move? Do you think the Lions made the right call, or will Walker prove to be a valuable asset for the 49ers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, stay tuned for more updates. We're on the brink of another season under Dan Campbell, and as we gear up for year 4, there's plenty of excitement and anticipation in the air. The Lions are coming off their 4th series of joint practices under Campbell's leadership, and now, with preseason week 1 against the New York Giants just around the corner, it's time to talk about what we can expect to see, especially from the guys battling it out in the trenches. Dan Campbell has always been upfront about how much he values these joint practices. To him, they're like mini-games, controlled environments where he can see how the players respond under pressure without the full-blown risk of injury. He's already hinted that some of the starters we're counting on during the season might not even see the field against the Giants, or if they do, it'll be for just a few reps. So, who should we be watching when the starters are on the sidelines? It's all about finding the right pieces to complete the 53-man roster puzzle. I'll be keeping a close eye on the offensive line because, let's face it, if they don't hold up, nothing else on offense will either. Without a solid O-line, our quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers don't stand a chance. Let's be real, Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, Frank Ragnow, Kevin Zeitler, and Penei Sewell won't be suiting up against the Giants. We're likely not going to see them at all in the preseason. Instead, it's time for the next men up to show what they've got. Last year, the starting lineup in preseason week 1 featured Matt Nelson at left tackle, Darren Paulo at left guard, Ross Pierschbacher at center before he got injured, Colby Sorstel at right guard, and Jermaine Ifedi at right tackle. These guys, especially Nelson and Sorstel, got a lot of playing time and were among the few backups who made it to the initial 53-man roster. This year, the Lions might keep 9 offensive linemen after roster cuts. Sorstel is almost a lock for a spot, but he still needs those preseason reps. Giovanni Manu, our 4th-round pick, is in a similar situation. He's likely to come off the bench in the second half against the Giants, as this is more of a redshirt year for him. Sorstel, who's been transitioning back to his college position of offensive tackle, might start at right guard or tackle, depending on the needs. Then we've got Michael Neese, who's been with the Lions since 2023. He's been getting a lot of time at center but stepped in at right guard during Tuesday's joint practice after Zeitler went down. Keota Wasaka, who started 5 games for the Lions over the last 2 seasons, might also be in the mix, though he's been dealing with some injuries. If Awasaka isn't ready to go, look for Ike Becker, a recent addition with 17 career starts for the Bills, to step up. And don't forget about Dan Skipper and Connor Galvin, who could be lining up at tackle. Now, it's not just about the O-line, it's about how these guys match up against the Giants' defense. Players like Ryder Anderson, who's been making waves in training camp, will be testing our linemen. Azeez Ojulari and Boogie Basham, both solid edge rushers, will be coming at our tackles. Inside, guys like Jordan Riley and DJ Davison will be pushing our guards and centers to the limit. For the Lions, the performance of the second-team offensive line is crucial. They need to give Hendon Hooker enough time in the pocket to prove he's worthy of the backup quarterback job. They need to open lanes for Sione Vaki so he can continue to develop at running back. And they need to protect long enough for the coaching staff to decide who's going to step up as WR3, whether it's Doris Fountain, Caden Davis, Antoine Green, or Donovan Peoples-Jones. These guys are fighting for their careers, for a chance to matter when the games count. The Lions' resurgence has been built on the strength of the offensive line, and now it's up to the second team to carry that legacy forward. But what do you think, Lions fans? Who do you see stepping up in preseason week 1? The Detroit Lions are taking the field against the New York Giants in East Rutherford, kicking off what's sure to be the most intense preseason opener we've seen in a long time. After days of heated practices that saw more scuffles than anyone could count, whether you were there in person or watching the chaos unfold on Twitter, the Lions and Giants are ready to settle things under the bright lights. But as we gear up for this game, there's some news out of training camp that we need to talk about. Unfortunately, the injury bug hasn't been kind to us. We've seen a mix of serious and less serious injuries. John Kaminsky, Netane Muti, and Emmanuel Moseley are among those hit hard, while Sam Laporta and Kevin Zeitler have had more minor setbacks. For guys like Laporta and Zeitler, it's not the end of the world, they weren't expected to play much tonight anyway. But for Kaminsky, Muti, and Moseley, these injuries are huge blows, especially when they were on the cusp of proving themselves this preseason. Kaminsky was all set to build on his solid 2022 season, where he showed up big in the pass rush department. He finished 47th in pressures among defensive linemen, and he did that with fewer snaps than many of his peers. This year was supposed to be his time to lock down his spot in the rotation. But now, with this injury, his journey takes a detour. The hope is he can come back before the season ends, but it's a tough pill to swallow. Netane Muti's injury is another tough one. He was in a prime position to secure a role as a backup guard, which would have allowed us to keep Colby Sorstel focused on his move back to tackle. With Muti out, Sorstel's versatility becomes even more critical, but the depth we were counting on just took a hit. And let's not forget about rookie Christian Mahogany, who's been battling illness. We need our offensive line to be at its best, and now the pressure is on. Then there's Emmanuel Moseley. This one's heartbreaking, folks. Moseley had been working so hard to come back from an ACL tear, and just when it looked like he was turning the corner, another injury struck, this time, a torn pectoral. It's a cruel reminder of how unforgiving this sport can be. Moseley had even been taking first-team snaps at nickel corner during camp. Now, his season is in jeopardy, and we're left wondering what could have been. But hey, there's a silver lining. The Lions might be able to use a new rule they proposed in the offseason, which would allow them to place both Kaminsky and Moseley on injured reserve before the final roster cut, giving them a chance to return later in the season. It's not an ideal situation, but it's something. Alright, now that we've got the tough news out of the way, it's time to focus on tonight's game. Here's the big question. Which Lions player has the biggest opportunity in the preseason opener against the Giants? There's a strong case for Levi Onwuzurike, who's been making waves in camp. He's looking like a lock for the roster and could be in line for a big role this season, especially given his ability to play multiple positions along the defensive line. But keep an eye on the nickel corner battle tonight, too. With Mosley sidelined, this could be Amik Robertson's moment to shine. He's got the versatility and feistiness that Dan Campbell loves, and tonight's game is his chance to prove he belongs. Campbell's been talking up Robertson's competitiveness, and it's clear he's got the inside track. But don't count out Ennis Rakestraw either. He's another guy who's been turning heads in camp, especially on special teams. And let's not forget about who the Giants might throw at us. While we don't know exactly who'll be suiting up for New York, our insider from SB Nation's Big Blue View hinted that we might not see much of Malik Neighbors. Still, they've got some solid wideouts like Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, and the veteran Allen Robinson II. It's going to be a great test for our corners. So, Lions fans, what do you think? Which player has the biggest opportunity tonight? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to hear what you've got to say. Let's go, Lions!